This episode, we're going to be talking with famous Libyan revolutionary Steen Kirby.
Yes, I'm quite famous.
So Steen's been on the show for a while and don't know.
That's right, just look him up on Google.
Had no idea that you played a part in the Libyan Revolution, so he's going to tell us all about it. So Steen, give us just sort of a short version of your role, man.
I'll keep this a short synopsis, but back in 2011 when the Libyan Revolution, Libyan Civil War conflict occurred, I became involved with a group of activists online and such that assisted the rebels in overthrowing Muammar Gaddafi, the dictator of Libya, and we just helped them in a variety of ways, primarily through social media and things like that, to be able to give them the means to defend themselves and turn the tide of the conflict so that they could succeed in overthrowing him and his military forces, and of course they did so. So that's my background with that.
Didn't you also give them like knowledge assistance?
Well, that's what I said.
Like,
the
weaponry?
means to defend themselves. The means. That was what I was saying.
I know, but that could be anything.
So get a little more specific.
Which is but the specifics are pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's in a book called Distant Witness by Andy Carvin that kind of explains it. But basically, we made some connections with some of the rebels there in Libya and the different cities, Tripoli and other cities, and we helped them with some of their military expertise and training to that, because they were civilians. A lot of them were farmers and doctors and dentists and things like that. They didn't have any background with weaponry or anything like that.
And you're from Georgia, so you're like, yo.
So we got together a team of experts, and we provided them assistance very similar to what Americans have done for many years, like their support of the rebels in the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s and all variety of conflicts, really. And, that's pretty much how it went down. And then I guess what we want to talk about was the current situation there now, and also the migrant crisis, primarily emanating from Libya right now, across the Mediterranean, people that are trying to reach European soil and improve their life circumstances, much like Cubans try to come to America and Mexicans across our border and things like that. And it's a very precarious journey, of course. They're very rickety boats, not very similar kind of the Vietnamese boat people as well.
So are you saying you feel guilty for supporting the revolution, which has led to all of these mass migrations and deaths?
That's a good question.
No, I don't at all. I feel like any situation like that, when you have somebody in power for 42 years in absolute power that does not govern appropriately to begin with, is going to create a power vacuum.
And Bridgman, that was your boy, right?
Yeah. He was. Yeah. He was a Pan-African.
He was full of shit. Let's be frank.
He was the sole guy who could have actually created an African state that was self-sufficient and governed itself and didn't rely on foreign currency.
Yeah, under totalitarian control.
Not necessarily. If you have democracy, that was his whole forepoint of the African Union.
There was no democracy.
It was to set up an American type system
in
Africa.
Shit. He was full of shit. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
I don't think anyone believed him when he said that.
Yeah, that's not a serious. That was not a serious proposal. He was in power for 42 years.
Why wasn't it a serious proposal?
Kwame
Nkrumah had the idea. He got the idea from Kwame Nkrumah.
No, what Gaddafi did was he found a way to get allies, and he said, look, I'm going to become a quote-unquote pan-African. I'm going to throw my oil money around to these poor African neighbors like Niger and Chad and countries like that. Actually, not Chad, he went to war with them, but Niger and other countries like that. And that was just a way for him to throw emphasis around, much like the Qataris and the Saudis
he
do
provided
that in the Middle
40%
East.
Of the budget for the African
Well, do you
Union.
not see a problem with that?
40% of the budget for the African Union. No.
Do you not see a problem with that?
No, because he had one of the wealthiest nations in all of Africa.
And the African Union is a joke.
I mean,
they're a disaster. What's your point?
That's because anytime you have anybody with any substantial leadership, they end up dying.
He wasn't a leader. He was full of himself. He was a megalomaniac. He was unstable.
People around the world think otherwise.
No, that's not true. This was Gaddafi. Gaddafi is somebody who would take 14-year-old girls out of school and rape them repeatedly and then leave them to die when he got tired of them.
That's your boy, Bridgman. That's your boy.
Guess what?
I don't know.
I'm not saying that he didn't do evil things. He is a dictator, yes, but so is the king of Saudi Arabia.
Well, I don't support the king of Saudi Arabia.
guess what? That they
You
probably
support
do.
the king
They
of-
probably do more evil than
I'm sure
anybody
they
else
do.
in the Middle East.
I'm
but,
sure they do.
They got more money.
But guess what? There's not going to be a organized, collaborative attack against Saudi Arabia.
But there should be.
But
Well,
guess
what's
what?
your
I disagree
point?
with
They're
that.
our dealer, man. They're our dealer. If they weren't, it'd be a whole different
Saudi-
game.
Saudi
Okay,
Arabia
we
is
should say
not a
you
democracy,
say
but
you
the Saudi
should.
king
You say you
is
should
nowhere
be.
near as bad.
Okay. So if we go to war with Saudi Arabia, we're gonna bomb
Well,
Mecca.
wait,
What's gonna happen in the aftermath of that?
Wait a minute. Let me.
Who said we should go to war with Saudi
I
Arabia?
didn't say go to war with Saudi Arabia. Now, hold on. Let me,
You said we should.
Wait
You
a
said we
minute.
should.
Wait
We
a
should
minute.
topple their
Wait
regime.
a minute.
You
No.
said we should topple their regime.
This is my. This
Man,
is
in an
my
ideal
position.
world, I agree.
This is what he said. This
we should
is
just stop buying their oil.
this is my position.
All right.
If you have a grassroots movement of people
Drill, baby, drill.
within a country who says we do not want the current leaders we have, we want something different, we want democracy, we want a different type of
Alright.
whatever they want.
Okay,
we
but-
need to support them.
But that's
we
not
don't
the
need, we don't
majority
need
of
to-
the people in the country.
That
were
was
not
the,
those
that
people.
was the majority of the country.
The country
in
was
Libya.
split
It
between tribal
absolutely
lines.
was. That is not true.
It was split between tribal feuds that had been going
There
on
were-
for centuries.
There,
It didn't look
there
very
was
split to me.
one,
It looked pretty
So
there
what-
was one primary tribe in the middle of the country in a city called Sirte primarily, and also some of the desert tribes that supported Gaddafi. The rest of the people in Libya were in favor of overthrowing him.
Okay. Now,
Some were more Islamic than others, but especially
yeah,
in the eastern part of the country, they did not support him. He had neglected them for years, and he had favored his own tribe over the others. He was as tribal
Just like
as
the
anybody
previous-
else.
No, I thought he
regime.
was a Pan-African.
Yeah, just like the previous regime did.
The previous
That
regime
he
was 42 years
Yes,
ago. It wasn't
exactly.
even the people's lifetime.
Did the
Right.
previous regime do good for America by letting Mr. Nelson Hunt make billions of dollars off the
Well,
oil
we
fields in
used to
Libya?
have a military base in Libya before Gaddafi closed it down. We did back in the
So he put
50s, I think it was.
So why would Bridgman want to take money out of the U.S. economy and inject it into the African economy?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Anyway,
I have no idea why anybody would want to do something so
to bring-
outrageous as that.
To
But-
bring this back to the point, this is my position on revolutionary movements or uprisings, whatever we call it. If you have a groundswell movement in a country that says we want something different, and it's people that in some way or another ascribe to values that we tend to support, we need to support them. We don't need to do what we did in Iraq in 2003 and just enter the country with a bunch of military troops and say, now you're going to revolt, because that's occupation.
So,
That's not,
so we joined forces
Yeah.
with Al Qaeda.
but we did not.
So we joined forces with.
They were not
Okay,
Al-Qaeda.
they were friendly to Al Qaeda. They had connections.
No.
I mean, that's yes.
No.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, I'm the one that knew them. You're the one watching Russia
right.
Today.
You didn't know everybody.
I didn't know everybody.
You don't know everybody.
Okay, I'll tell you who the rebel leader in Tripoli was. He was a dentist from the United
Yes.
Kingdom. He was not a member of Al Qaeda.
I understand that.
I mean, that's just
But-
plainly basically
but when it
racist.
came
That's
in-
just saying if they're Muslim, they have ties.
Oh,
You know why? You know
Gaddafi
why? I
was a
keep,
Muslim.
you know
I
why?
know.
Gaddafi wasn't Muslim.
And he's
I
the
mean-
one that blew up. He's the one that blew up the Lockerbie bombing. that
No, he
killed
didn't.
all-
No, he did not.
did.
No, he did not.
Oh,
man.
why
Have you not
into it?
seen? Have you not seen the new Al Jazeera documentary?
What does that-
debunking that whole?
bombed
They debunked
You
it.
mean
bombed
you
a
mean the Al
nightclub in
Jazeera
Berlin?
documentary funded by a government that supports slave labor in their own country?
Exactly. He bombed a nightclub in Berlin. There were assassinations that he ordered in the United Kingdom against dissidents.
Oh wow!
He was a major terrorist.
Oh my God! You call that terrorism?
It's not terrorist to blow up a jet in the middle of the sky. Wow.
Okay, first and foremost, he didn't do that.
He did do
not
that.
do that.
Ahmed Bassett
It's-
el-Megrahi was a close friend of his family.
All right. The gentleman who was accused of having ties to Gaddafi didn't have anything to do
That's
with the
not
bomb.
true.
All right.
People in his government.
It was an easy.
Alright,
It was an
so-
easy.
Alright, break it up, break it up, break it up, break it up.
He was
Alright.
the easiest
I wanna-
suspect. I mean,
Brian's.
I want to ask a question, so we'll break this up. Bridgman, I find it very interesting that that you like this guy Gaddafi just because in America.
It's not that I don't like. It's not that I like him. I just think that he had means to an end that I live my life to reach.
Well, then,
So
could you describe that end? Like,
we're gonna have to have. We're gonna talk about Pan-Africanism on another day.
Yeah, that's right.
Another segment.
Another segment. It's a whole nother.
so
Can of
can people like us who are your white brethren, can we join in on this dream?
Of Pan-Africanism?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, but what do you mean? What do you mean exactly?
I don't know. What did Gaddafi want?
It's been a lot of joining in Africa. It's a lot of joining in, right?
Chinese are joining in.
Asian power.
I'm just saying, I mean, Africans need a place. And maybe it should be Africa.
Support Pan-Africanism, do they not? I mean,
they are black.
Castro in Cuba, they were big in like Angola.
Yeah, exactly. He does.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to state this too, but in North Africa, there's a lot of Arabs or Mediterranean people. There's a lot of people that don't look your traditional kind of, dark melanin African.
What about our white African brothers?
I'm just saying.
What about white people in Zimbabwe?
I have met white South Africans.
Yeah, in Zimbabwe.
If you look at, first and foremost,
Di Ontwood, they are traditional South Africans. They represent that Zeph style.
There we go.
I'm not gonna go there, but let's go back to Libya. Let's go to Libya before the revolution.
No, because
let's go to Libya. Before
are you guys just gonna keep arguing?
We're just gonna keep arguing.
I just want to state this.
All right.
Libya before the revolution had a better standard of living.
That's not true.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
You can't. That's
if you want to know, here, I think the reason for that, comes down. We talked to it a lot. It's fucking religion, sectarianism, dude. Just theocracy.
The South had a better standard of living before the Civil War. Does that mean we should go back to slavery and plantations?
That's a good point.
I mean, that's not.
That's a very good
Nazi
point.
Germany had a great standard of living.
All right. So break it up, guys. All right. So Steen.
Can I just point out one thing though? Bridgemont is right that Libya, for instance, on the Human Development Index, is basically the highest.
So did the pre-Civil War South.
Thank you.
Germany, so did
I still agree with
Africa.
I still agree with Steen's point, which is that in the long run, I think the revolution's better for Libya, but they were looking.
It's not looking too good for them right now.
Well, would you both agree that they're in a state of virtual anarchy?
Yes. And what should have
because
happened?
of the revolution?
No, not
because of the power vacuum too. I mean,
because of the power vacuum. This is just not one more final remark on this. Right, first of all, Gaddafi is gone. His people are mostly either dead or in jail or in exile. They're not a relevant actor in the Libya situation any further.
You're right.
The situation is between these secular strongmen and the Islamic strongmen that are battling for control of the country, and then everybody else get caught in the middle.
It would be an idea. Oh, sorry, I'm just interrupting.
I was just saying, what should happen is, first of all, we never should have just left after we did the bombing. I now understand why it was done, because we didn't want to make it seem like it was Iraq or Afghanistan where we're getting involved and all this kind of thing. But we should have done more to support these stable actors in that government. But for the time being, again, we just need to stay involved and we need to work our way towards a resolution. And eventually, I think in 20, 30 years, the country will be fine. I'm not saying it's going to be paradise, but it ought to be stable. It should be fine.
But in 20, 30 years, Gaddafi would have been dead anyway.
But
his son would have been in charge.
And he was more modern. He's not.
His son turned into a raving lunatic at the end, though.
But Steen, what do you mean
if somebody killed your entire family?
When you say the West should have done things to stabilize certain actors, what do you mean by that?
There were people in the country who were not tied to the Islamic groups like the LIFG, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group.
But what should we have done to help them specifically?
We should have.
And keep in mind also what do Libyans think of America, and do they want us getting in there like that?
Well, I don't know the certain surveys now, but I know when they did public opinion surveys, roughly about 6 months after the revolution, Gaddafi fell. The United States had 74% positive rating. It was the highest rating of any Middle Eastern or North African country. And France and the UK were also over 60%.
Libya is a big place, and they did not go into the desert and ask everybody.
They did.
I assure you they did not.
I can send you the opinion polls, but that point aside.
No, I trust the polling on this.
Western nations.
I think that the lesson is we need some kind of international global body that will take over with some sort of plan framework for when there's revolution, when there's grassroots revolutions. Because we keep having this problem. We had this problem after Iraq, which we fucked up. Our bad. Yeah. And when, a lot of the Arabs, like Syria, partially. I mean, Syria is they haven't had a complete revolution.
There should have been a peacekeeping force.
Well,
they should have.
But like Libya, Tunisia's all right, but Egypt
and North Africa has become a substantially more dangerous place because
it's not.
Yes, it is. Well, how can you say that?
They should.
Look what's going on in Mali.
They should have. The Mali was
Who talking about popping Mali?
They should have. They should have paid the fighters to disarm, because that's primarily what their concerns are. Is that? And as for about Libya or Syria or whatever, I'll give you a perfect example. If you don't, yes, you should have paid them to
buy more guns.
They wouldn't. They wouldn't. Okay, you're getting what means. If you want to look at what Libya could have been if we had not gotten involved, look at Syria. And that situation is way worse. Man. Because you have ISIS.
All right, so real quick.
Gaddafi is not Al-Assad.
So real quick.
Time is not Assad.
He didn't deserve that knife in the ass.
All right, so Steen, real quick. We got 20 seconds left. Yeah. What the hell's been going on in Libya recently?
What's been going on recently is, like I just mentioned, there's a secular strongman force led by a fellow named Hiftar that's a general that wants to be like Sisi in Egypt. And then there's an Islamic Muslim Brotherhood-backed group that fighting each other. There's not really a parliament. The country doesn't really have any money. But people outside the country that are holding the reserves are basically holding it back and saying, let y'all have at it, and then the winner's going to get the money. The oil money.
Familiar.
Is the money going into Swiss bank accounts from the oil?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
All right, Pluto.